What up guys, this is Sports Card Genie here. I've been getting a lot of questions as to how you actually put a grade on a sports card. I'm going to show you how you take these items and how you can actually learn how to grade cards for yourself. Make sure that you press like and subscribe, and here we go guys as we jump into the video. Alright guys, and so we're jumping into the content now. So I have 3 cards that I have lined up here where I'm actually going to show you some actual damages on the card. I'm going to go back and forth here between our magnifying lamp. Okay, so right now you're seeing the actual lamp, it's on. I'm going to shine the light on some defects, and then I'm going to go ahead and probably push down the magnifying glass so you actually can take a look here. Generally you have a loop in your hand too. That's another way you could do this, but if you don't have a loop, this is a cost-efficient way that you can actually turn your actual desk or wherever you kind of open up your cards into an actual grading station here. This is a great way to, or a great thing actually to learn, because you want to learn to pre-screen your cards before you send them in. Because if you're looking to get 10s or a high grade on a card, you definitely want to take a look at that card and make sure that it's looking pretty good center wise. And then you want to see from a damage standpoint what the damages are on the card. Most cards that are 10s and 9s, they actually maybe have some damages on the cards, but they're so minor that it's something that they don't pick up in the holder, which is what you guys see. The holder is what holsters the card up. But anyhow, definitely make sure you press like and subscribe, guys, as I kind of go through this here. And this is for anybody that is just wanting to learn how to pre-grade some cards, or you're really interested in getting into grading. This is a great video here for you. All right, so the first thing that I like to do here is I actually like to take a microfiber cloth here, which is what you see here, and generally I like to wipe down the card. And so with these microfiber cloths, it's something that's not going to scratch your card up. You don't have to worry about that. It can get a little bit of dust on it and everything like that. You can always wash these out, or what you can do is actually grab some more microfiber cloths, as they're very cost efficient, and I actually have links to those in the description. Next, you see that I have these gloves on here. So these nitrile gloves here, they don't have the powder on them. They're also they're going to hold the moisture in your hands, so then that way you don't sweat out on the card or anything like that. This is perfect for handling the card. You'll notice too that I like to handle the card here from the side, or I like to handle it like this for the most part. Now you can handle it like this if you have the gloves on, that's fine. Because what you're doing there is you're ensuring that you're not going to get any fingerprints on it. And if you do get the fingerprints on it, this is what the microfiber cloth is for. You can kind of wipe that down. That does happen here for you. So yeah, let's go ahead and kind of jump into this thing. And so the first thing that most graders probably do is they go ahead and center out the card. So we wiped it down. So then now I'm going to take what we call a centering tool here, and we're going to go ahead and place this on the card. All right. And so generally what you want to do is you want to try to line that up with the borders on the card here. And essentially you're going to see these numbers here that actually pop off there to the right, to the left, to the top, and the bottom. And what I'm going to show you guys is basically I'm going to take these two, right? These 2 points, and I'm going to show you that there's a chart that shows you where your card is at as far as centering wise. And this kind of lets you know, hey, is this a card that is off-centered? And if it's off-centered, no big deal. I mean, if it's supremely off-centered, obviously that's going to cost it a grade if it's like a miscut or supremely off-centered. But guys, there are 10s out there that do not have the most perfect centering in the world. A lot of the times when you look at cards, it's really going to come down to the eye aesthetic of the card. How does it look? The eye appeal of the card. So there can be some 10s out there, some 9.5s, some 9s that can be slightly off-centered. So don't bug out of shape about that if you don't find a perfect centered card. That's not the biggest issue here. All right, guys, so I'm just kind of looking here. I'm kind of going off these borders here. The number that I get from this is 3, and I think I get a 2 right here. And when I look at this chart, right, it shows me that, if you get a 3-2, that's pretty much a 60-40. 3-3 is 50-50. That kind of lets you know that these cards are pretty good as far as the center is concerned here. You can take a look at the card there. You can kind of tell like it's, you know, maybe slightly off here with the border, but not any big deal. It looks pretty well centered for the most part, guys. And so now let's take a look here. And this is like the biggest thing here. And that is how exactly do you look at the card? How are these things scored? You know, what exactly the grader is looking for. And so I'm going to show you some examples here based off these 3 cards, starting with this one. And the first thing that I'm going to show you is basically we're going to sheen the light. So you'll see the light here. Now, a trick here, guys, is the further that you hold the card out, the more that you see. The closer that you bring the card up, the lesser that you see, okay? Now, I usually like to bring the card up when I've located a damage. You take it further away from you when you're looking to see what exactly is on the card. All right, so right now you see I have kind of a far view, and if you're looking here, you can see like right under the number, there's like a little dot there, right? And so when I bring this thing up here, what we're gonna see, I'm trying to get it to where you guys can actually see this thing, and I'm going to pop it into the magnifying glass too as well, so bear with me. All right, just kind of moving it around here to the light, kind of sheening right there. All right, so kind of bringing it out of the light just a little bit more, and you can see it's a little bit closer here. We actually see that it's a little brush scratch, like right under the 12. So now I'm going to bring down the magnifying glass, guys, and see if you guys see this here. Bring up the camera, and we're actually looking through the magnifying glass right now. So bear with me. I'm going to try to zoom in here, guys, a little bit. See if you guys actually see this here. Bring it up. All right, there we go. Right there. See that? A little brush scratch right there. Ever so slightly, guys. You see that? It's just probably like about just yay high, right? It's like a little old scratch right there. So that's an example of how you would go back and forth between the actual magnifying glass and actually sheening the light there, okay? And so I can see that clear right there. All right, and I know if you guys were here kind of looking at the card, you'd be able to see that damage a little bit better, but it's just a slight brush scratch under the number. And so, I mean, that's probably something that's just, you know, a minor scratch here. You know, maybe you make that maybe out of a 10, maybe it's like a 2. It doesn't look like it's too deep into the card, but it is a damage that your actual grader would take in consideration. And that's generally what your grader is going to do, is pretty much sheen the light and go down the card slowly here and see what they find. Now let's go to the back of the card, all right? So the one thing that kind of pops out here on the back of the card, guys, is you see right there at this top left over top of the number, you'll see that right there is corner damage, all right? You see that compared to this corner, right? You see the whitening of the corner? Now, the one thing to kind of throw out there is this. We're looking at a paper card. This isn't a chrome card, and I'm going to show you some examples of that. But with this white border, or not the white border cards, but with the paper cards, what you're going to get here is you're going to get some chipping generally on the corner. Okay, so this is one thing that does take place with a lot of paper cards, is they do actually damage on the corners often. So that is possible that you're going to see that. But this corner, it does look like it's pretty obsessive, guys, because that is something that just kind of, it immediately kind of pops out at us, okay? And I guarantee you, if we take the magnifying glass, or you take a loop and kind of go in there, what you generally see here is you're seeing a corner that essentially has gotten soft over the time. You're going to see probably some missing stock out of this particular corner. So the card stock is possibly what you're seeing here. And you're also too looking at some of the edge wear as well. You see right there, you see that? That right there indicates that maybe we might have a little edge damage. So when you're looking at the edges, right, you're seeing if that actually kind of goes into the card. Now there are several examples of paper cards where you do see this chipping, but it's not going down into the card. See that versus that, right? It looks rough, but look at that. It kind of goes in right there, okay? So that's something that basically I would say would be something that's an edge. Just kind of looking through the corners here. You know, that corner right there definitely has like a little bit of whitening here. And let me see if I can actually throw the magnifying glass on there, guys, so you guys can see that a little bit better. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so here we go. We're just throwing the magnifying glass in there a little bit more, and you guys get a chance to kind of see as I kind of focus this thing a little bit more as to what you might see as a grader there. It kind of lights up a little bit. And that's the beauty of kind of sheening the light here as well. You can kind of take a little bit better look at the corners and kind of sheen the card up and down and kind of see a little bit more here. All right. Now that's just kind of looking at your corners and edges of the card. So now I'm just going to kind of take here and I'm going to kind of sheen the light and look at that right there. See this? Right. I'm just going to bring my finger in there right there. Okay. Now that actually is a deep scratch into the card. Okay, you can see like it almost looks like a print in the back of the card. These actually are pretty deep scratches into the card. I would say that this, if it were a damage meter, you know, that's anywhere from a 5 to a 10 because you can see how that actually indents the card. There is a difference between an actual dent and a scratch. You can tell how it actually goes across the card here as well. You see that? See how it goes across? But that right there is exactly what you are looking for when you are grading your cards here. All right. And so again, if you want one of these lamps, you can go ahead and click the link below and it'll show you exactly where you can pick up one of these lamps here where you can go back and forth. All right. So that's card number one. I know this is a longer video, guys, but I definitely wanted to go ahead and make sure that you guys get a good look here as to what a grader actually kind of looks at there. Next up here, let's take a look at what we call a mosaic card or what we would call a prism card here. All right, so this right here, you notice that it has like a chrome finish. You don't have that same finish as you had on a paper card here. Excuse me, guys, as I kind of adjust here. But the one thing that you see here is I kind of sheen the light. Look over here, right? You see that? That is what we call a print line, okay? Like you see how thin that is, okay? And you see how that continues to go on. Now, a scratch is kind of like what we just saw there. It was like a little bit more, how can I say it? It's almost like a fatter line. It's not as thin and precise. And, you know, scratches are a bit more ugly with the print lines here. They're definitely something that it comes with the manufacturer. This is something that your grader does take a look at. It depends on how bad the print lines are, you know, with how much it can affect the score. It depends if it is a print line that kind of goes deep into the card. If it's a print line like this, you may or may not necessarily see it. I mean, I was pretty easily able to pick this up without necessarily sheening the light on it, but I wanted you guys to take a look here and you get a chance to see what exactly the print line looks like. See how smooth that is, right? Now, the one thing that you can look at here is you see these corners here on the chrome card. These mosaics, your prism cards and things like that, for the most part, the corners are a lot more smoother. And this is what I'm talking about with the contrast of the paper card that we just saw. Your paper cards usually get beat up a lot more on your corners and edges. Not saying that this can't happen to a prism or a mosaic card, but it's pretty rare. But it can happen because you're pushing it in and out of the card saver. You're pushing it in and out of those books to store them. And that's generally what can happen there. So you might see like a little bit of wear here as we kind of look in on this corner, right? You might see a little bit of a rough edge too as well. But generally, you know, for the most part, the chrome cards are pretty clean. So the next here, you're going to see like I'm sheening the light. And what you see there is you see that fine kind of white line right there. See that? Boom. Okay. And it actually carries through his neck right there, right? And that's how you can pick up print lines on cards. And this is what I'm talking about when you sheen the light, and the further you get away from it, the more you see, the more up close. I like to come up close when I'm actually looking at the damage and I've actually located the damage on the card. So that helps me too. So another trick of the trade is like, once you do find a damage, bring it up to the light and sheen it to where you just pick it up like right there. I can see that clear as day as it kind of goes through. So right now you're looking at an example of what it looks like with a print line here. You got a chance to see a little bit more as to the edges, and you see now the difference between a good corner and a bad corner, right? With the paper, you saw like where it was just the whitening, you seen the stock there, and that's something where we would take our microfying glass and we would actually kind of look into that a little bit more. All right, so that is card number 2. All right, guys, and so here is the last card that we will take a look at here, and this is an optic, okay? Larry Roundtree, he played running back there for the Chargers for a little bit. All right, guys, so the one thing that we're going to do here, and again, it should be doing this pretty much every card, but just wiping it down gently, right? And the one thing I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you the difference between like a print line and actual scratch here. So I'm just going to bring the card back into the light and sheen it. Like, look right here. You see that? It's like a little, just a little, it almost looks like a little dot right there, right? But what you're seeing is just a scratch that's about like this big, okay? Now, these are pretty common on these type of cards. So you just saw, you know, what the prism cards are. So anytime you're looking at the optics, the prisms, the mosaics, these kind of scratches are common on a card. So you want to look for those. Those definitely can bring down the score. And one of the things that can bring down the score the most is if those kind of scratches are inside the player, right? Or on the body, okay? Those right there kind of take away from the aesthetics of the card, really. When you look at the player, if the player has heavy scratches, you know, on the legs, on the chest area, arm area, anywhere on the player, I mean, that's going to be tough. With this right here, I mean, it is a little scratch. You got to wonder, you know, hey, if I hold it back, are you going to really see that? No, but as you kind of bring it closer, you see that right there? You see it right there by the head. And so what I'm going to try to do, guys, real quickly here is I'm going to try to bring the microfying glass down. Hopefully you guys can see this. I know this is a little bit tough, but hopefully you guys can see it a little bit better. If not, I apologize here, guys, with the setup. So let me try to bring that up. Let me try to get this zoomed in a little bit more and see if you guys can see it. So you can barely kind of see it, but it kind of sticks out if you're looking directly at the microfying glass. It's just right there ever so slightly. It's just a little scratch right there, guys. All right, guys, and so that is today's video here. We just actually briefly showed you exactly what you would do as far as taking a lamp. You're going back and forth. You get a chance to see exactly what the grader has to do in order to pick up damages on your card. You got a chance to see exactly what it means to take the centering of a card, right? And you got a chance to look at the different damages on the card, especially mainly when we were looking at, say, the corner of the card. Right? You see that whitening of the card versus like just kind of more or less a prism card or an optic card here. You see that there's really no corner damage, right? And not saying that there's not any paper cards out there that don't have some great corners, guys, but you know, this is just kind of an example here of what you're looking at, guys. If you are just new to grading, you're trying to figure out, you know, hey, how do you do it? How do you come up with these scores? You know, where do they get these numbers from, guys? This is exactly what a grader does, okay? And lastly, when you actually go ahead and you want to put your cards back up here, all right? So you're noticing right now these penny sleeves, okay? We just saw the example of a paper card, all right? So what you want to do to avoid what happens with those paper cards at the corners and the edges here, where they kind of get beat up, is a little pro's trick. What I would do is I actually would come over here and right here at the corner, like yay high, right? I would actually give it a little snip. This is with some scissors. Give it a little snip like that. That gives you a little bit more of an opening here. So then now when you put your card in, you just take your fingers and you do this, and you actually have more of a leeway to bring that card and put it down into the penny sleeve, you ensure that you're not damaging the corners of the card, guys. So that's what you would do right there if you're doing it with the penny sleeve. And obviously you would go ahead and put that into a card saver here, and this is how you would submit your cards. All right, guys, so if you like today's video, definitely make sure that you press like and subscribe below. And, you know, if you have any questions about the products there, just let us know. Just keep in mind that those are affiliate links, so we do get a little bit of a commission off that, guys, but it doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. And guys, I will see you on the next video, Sports Card Genie. Keep grading your cards. Slap swag.